Allah tests you with something so severe, so harsh, and you turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you seek His pleasure through that. Allah takes something away from you that you thought you could not live without. Allah says you'll be tested with your safety, you'll be tested with your health, you'll be tested with your family, you'll be tested with your sustenance, all of this uncertainty, things are going to be all over the place. وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ, but give glad tidings to the patient. When you walk around in Hajj, you see people without legs, you see people without arms, you see people in poverty, you see people, some of them their pain is apparent on them. People being carried on the backs of others. People that do not have the ability to see, that have to have someone. It's already difficult enough for a young, healthy person to walk those days of Hajj. You see people that have all sorts of ailments and someone has to walk them around. You see people trip and fall. You see people collapse because they can't walk that many miles a day in that heat. You see obvious pain in health. You see poverty around you. And for how many people that were walking around in Arafah and Hajj this year, their pain was completely silent. No one knows what that person's been through. You could run into someone in front of the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ or pray next to someone in the haram and you don't know what that person's been through, and you don't know why Allah chose them to be there or why Allah chose you to be there, or what they're calling upon Allah with, or what their status with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. We have such an arrogance, by the way, as Western Muslims, that we project on them. Look at these people, they can't even form a line. Look at you, you can't even pray. And they pray all night in the haram. They have faults and we have faults, but you don't know that person's status. You don't know their circumstances. And they call upon Allah and invoke Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And no one knows who's around them. If you start talking to people, you hear their pain. In this masjid right now, we don't know each other's pain. We don't know what everybody's going through. We don't know the struggles that we're having with family and health and wealth and all that. We don't know what struggles we're having with career unless you know someone very intimately and they're talking to you, right? You don't know. And subhanAllah, you know who was there this year at Hajj? The families of the martyrs of Christchurch, New Zealand. And some of the survivors. The families of the shuhada. If you walked past them, I ran into Aziz, the hero of Masjid Nur in Sa'i, and talked to him there. And if you saw him, you just think he's just another Afghani man walking between Safa and Marwa like everybody else. And this guy, Allah knows what his status is in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Walking and doing dhikr with his slippers in his hand just like anybody else. Abu Ata, Ata. These special people lost their families in Jum'ah, sitting here just like you, and their families were taken from them, and they're there in Hajj. Almost all of them were there in Hajj this year. And if you saw them, wallahi, you would not recognize them. You wouldn't know them. You see these people and you think it's just another Hajji. And these are people that put their loved ones in the ground for Allah. And Allah called them to Hajj this year. There's a brother, Wasim, who was in a coma when we went to Christchurch because he shielded his daughter. Wasim shielded his 4-year-old daughter when the massacre happened. And he was shot 9 times, holding his daughter. And the last memory he had before he went into a coma was getting to the hospital, and his daughter was in blood and he was in blood, and he said, "Take my daughter, don't worry about me." And then he collapsed and he went into a coma. When we went to Christchurch, Wasim wasn't awake. He was in a coma. When he woke up 3 weeks later, he started shouting for his daughter. And when they told him that your daughter's okay because alhamdulillah she survived, he didn't believe them. He had to see her. And she turned 5 in the hospital, right there in the hospital bed next to him, and they were at Hajj this year. They were at Hajj this year. If Allah is shy from the hands of a servant who could have disobeyed Him and turned to Him for those few moments, then what about that person who gave it all for Allah? And there are people, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, Shaheedan yamshi ala al-ard, a martyr that could be walking, and those people were there saying Allahumma, and they could have been right next to you and you didn't even know. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our du'as, to accept the du'as of all of those for whom hajj was made on behalf of and du'a was made on behalf of, to accept all of the good deeds of the first 10 of the hijjah that were done, and to forgive us for our shortcomings. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to comfort the shuhada, to elevate the shuhada and the families of the shuhada, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept all of our good deeds and forgive our shortcomings. Allahumma ameen.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Hope this video was helpful for you. This may help others too, so please consider sharing, and we will bring more videos in the future inshallah, so consider subscribing and you won't miss any. Jazakallahu khairan.